We begin the news at this hour in West Africa, where two Nigerian ministers have blamed the current food crisis in the country on the unintended consequences of the two reforms introduced by the federal government on the petrol subsidy and forex. Agriculture Minister Abubakar Kyari attributed the food shortage in the country to the devaluation of Naira, which has made the nation's currency weak compared to the CFA franc, currency used by 8 other states in the West African sub-region. Minister Kyari disclosed at the National Assembly and in his presentation before the Senate committees on finance, appropriation, banking, insurance, and other financial institutions, lamenting that the devaluation of the Naira had given neighboring countries an advantage to buy cheaper farm products from Nigeria, which are now consequently being smuggled across the border by peasants. Well, to further discuss this, I'm joined this afternoon by the Executive Director of Lead Africa Network, Chukwuma Okenwa. Chukwuma, it's good to have you on the program this afternoon. Good afternoon to you. Let's begin by asking you, two Nigerian ministers you had are blaming the food crisis in the country. Some call it food shortage, others see it as being lack of money or the expensive nature of the food. And some are saying that it is due to the unintended consequences of the policies of the federal government under President Tinubu. Removal of the subsidy on petrol and, of course, trying to stabilize the foreign exchange rate. Do you agree with this, please?
I quite agree with the Honorable Minister, but I differ from him with respect to his choice of words, unintended consequences, because as at the time the reforms were being adopted, the mannerism with which both reforms was implemented, it showed that it was not carefully thought out process and enough strategy to mitigate the possible impact. It would have been expected that for a subsidy that has been maintained, subsidy regime, and the essence of it, of course, is to stop untold hardship on the citizen due to high cost on importation. It should have been expected that by the abrupt removal and the mannerism with which was done, that will bring untold hardship on the citizen. So I do not see the need for the choice of the word unintended consequences. And then also with respect to that of the devaluation of the Naira, which ab initio has been backed up by the central bank. What would have expected to see on the part of the government would have been first and foremost boost local production, fix our refineries, ensure that those means where we dissipate even N dollars, for it's on record that for 5 years NNPC never paid anything into the treasury. So all of those things would have been addressed before going on with those two reforms.
Chukwuma, how can Nigerians collectively navigate the economic challenges posed by the high cost of living? And what role does public awareness and public advocacy play in ensuring that we have a constructive dialogue between the government and the citizens?
Yeah, I mean, dialogue will always start from the government, first and foremost by seeing themselves as actors that are accountable to the people, and that whatever their actions, why they are policymakers is, whatever decision they come up with influences people's lives. And for the government to come up with such reforms without carefully carrying the citizens along was ill-advised. So the government can do a lot more. And I think that the government should do a lot more in carrying the citizens along for some other policies. But at the moment, with the way things are in the country, the government can step up action. First and foremost, we expect like a lot of investment into local production. For the Minister of Agriculture to come and be saying that the reason why we are not having enough food at the moment, it's simply because some foods are being smuggled. This certainly has to do with states that maintain border with some of these other nations. However, all other states within the country, which we've not been able to like really explore all of our agricultural potentials as a country. All of the 774 local government should get back to the farm. They should be producing, and politicians, policymakers hold the tool to ensure that we get our young people back to the farm.
All right. Talking about strategies, so you've talked about getting people back to the farm, but I want you to look, delve some more into strategies, considering the fact that the Nigerian economy is interconnected. What strategies are you advocating for achieving food sustainability, food security, and number three, economic stability, both at the state and national levels?
Okay, now to achieve food security, right, especially with the current crisis in the nation, I see the government is already stepping up action, which is commendable, by seeing how maybe the impact of smuggling could be mitigated. But then I also think that with the level of investment we make into food importation on daily basis, on yearly basis, that runs into billions of dollars just to import food, that kind of portends a lot of potentials for agriculture in the nation. And guess what? It means that if we fully exploit the potentials embedded in agriculture, we can even earn more forex, from agriculture. Agriculture used to be the mainstay of Nigerian economy until we discovered oil, which some analysts have seen that, that the oil boom became our doom. But it ought not to be so, because some other are actually leveraged on the oil advantage to boost the economy. And then while diversifying, leveraging on agriculture, manufacturing, provision of services, it was able to boost the economy. It became very stable. And with that, with a stable economy, with job security, and with labor and industrialized agriculture, we are sure that food security becomes an assurance for Nigerians, not like a situation where just with a little shaking in the nation, the cost of food is so skyrocketing, like we do not have fertile lands. It should not be so, because we know just before these reforms, some price of goods have actually, in some cases, gone almost like twice of what it used to be, 40%, but then the prevailing inflationary rate is somewhere around 28%.
All right. Chukwuma Okenwa, thank you so very kindly for your time.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
The Nigerian Union of Pensioners says its members will take to the streets without clothes if the welfare of pensioners in the country does not improve significantly anytime soon. They're talking about protests. Well, the national president of the union, Godwin Abumusi, told journalists at a news briefing in Abuja that his union will take action to draw the attention of the world to the plight of pensioners in Nigeria. Delays in the payment of pensions are commonplace in the country, and protests by pensioners happen every now and then as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. And with organized unions pushing for a new minimum wage for workers, pensioners are also calling for review of the national minimum pension. In the meantime, the housing with the rising cost of building materials, inconsistency of Nigeria's forex market, and the renewal of fuel subsidy, a removal of subsidy on petrol, residents of the nation's capital, Abuja, have raised the alarm over the increasing cost of house rent. Some of them spoke with News Central in Abuja, saying that they can no longer cope and they fear that they may be rendered homeless. Marvelous Oboma, our correspondent, brings us this special report from the nation's capital, Abuja.
Abuja, Nigeria's capital, is the symbol of the nation's unity, as people from diverse cultures, ethnicities, and religions now call it home. In recent times, staying in FCT is becoming untenable, as many say they cannot continue to service the high demands of landlords and estate developers. With the housing sector booming because of the high population of citizens, estate developers now hold sway, renting out houses to those who can afford to build their own, many of them living off tenants. In Abuja, Nigeria's capital, residents are expressing worry over the high cost of accommodation. For those who cannot afford to pay house rent within the city centers, end up coming to local communities where they can afford cheaper accommodation. Where I am is called Mpape, a suburb of the Federal Capital Territory. Now, when you look around this environment, you'll be forced to ask yourself, how good or comfortable will it be to get an accommodation in this kind of place? You are about to find out.
This place is the most horrible place a man can live in terms of dumping of refuse and also in terms of sanitation, because the gutters are just close to your doorsteps if you are living in Face Me and Face You. And also, it depends where you get your accommodation. Some places you find that the toilet is just right inside the compound.
When it comes to the hygiene here, it's quite poor. It's very, very poor. And for someone who is looking at the hygiene aspect of it here, I'm not sure you would want to stay in somewhere like this. Like you can see around me here, you can see the drainage system is quite poor. You can see refuse bin is just exposed to the environment. This is very bad pollution already.
As residents in the suburbs express worry over the rising cost of accommodation, the situation is the same for their counterparts who reside within the city centers.
The way the real estate company and landlords are making house expensive, like accommodation expensive here in Abuja, I don't think the layman can stay in Abuja. You understand? For instance, staying in an apartment that you pay 700,000 annually per year, and an increment, we know, okay, yeah, we know the country is hard, the economic is bad, everybody's going through one or two situations or no, you understand? But as a landlord, you need to be considerate also.
The accommodation in Abuja is terrible, seriously terrible. If you are earning, like, let me tell you, I'm a civil servant now, I'm working. If you are earning at least less than 200 or 200 and above, you can't be able to stay in Abuja because the high cost of living in terms of accommodation is very high.
In the course of our investigation, News Central identified one tenant who lost his life following bouts of depression as his house rent in the Gwarimpa area of the city was increased from 800,000 naira to 1.7 million naira, an increase of over 200%.
It was my breath that they took my breath away. I'm talking, it's not me that is talking. I don't know.
We just woke up one morning and we saw letters pasted on our doors, for those that weren't around. Us that were around, I received mine, And, looking at the content of the letter, we saw over 100% increase on what we usually pay.
Tenants in the apartment say the notice of increase came as a shock. However, there was more bad news as the troubled neighbor absent-mindedly found himself run over by a truck while in deep thought along the road.
And I never knew about the letter. I never got the chance to tell me. So when I got to his house, that is where I am right now, that was when his co-neighbors now brought out a letter. All of them, there were like 7, 8 of them, brought his own letter to me and said, "Mommy, this was what Tope got this morning that made him absent-minded." I said, "What?" I now read it. I saw the content of the letter. Very disturbing, very highly professional.
We usually do this stuff, like we write tenancy agreements and we give to people. So we usually include a rent review clause in the event the landlord intends to increase the rent. So I read the notice. To say the least, it is very oppressive. How can you increase the rent from 800,000 to 1,700,000? It is illogical.
The mother of the deceased said she has tried to reach out to the landlord and the lawyer who served the notice, but they have refused to grant her audience. Many residents will be hoping that something is done as quick as possible to arrest the exploitation of tenants by landlords in the federal capital. In Abuja for News Central, Marvelous Obomanu.
Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has mourned the tragic death of two senior members of the Nigeria finance community. The group executive officer of Access Holdings PLC, Herbert Wigwe, and former group chairman of the Nigerian Exchange Group PLC, Abimbola Ogunbajo, in a helicopter crash in the United States of America on Friday. Also killed in the air crash were the wife of Wigwe, Chizoba, their son, and the two helicopter crew members. In a statement released on Sunday, February 11, by his special advisor on media and publicity, President Bola Tinubu described the tragic accident as an overwhelming tragedy that is shocking beyond comprehension. Those were his words. Let's now look at the life and times of Herbert Wigwe. He started his professional career with Coopers and Libra and Associates, an international firm of chartered accountants. Spent over 10 years at Guarantee Trust Bank PLC, where he managed several portfolios, including financial institutions, large corporates, and multinationals. Herbert left Guarantee Trust Bank as an executive director to co-lead the transformation of Access Bank PLC. In March 2002, as deputy managing director, he was appointed group managing director and chief executive officer effective January 1, 2014, and served in that capacity till May 2022, when he was appointed a non-executive director of the bank effective May 2022. An alumnus of the Harvard Business School Executive Management Program, Herbert Wigwe holds a master's degree in banking and international finance from the University College of North Wales. He holds a master's degree in financial economics from the University of London, holds a BSc degree in accounting from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. He was a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, the chairman of Access Bank UK Limited, and a non-executive director of the Nigerian Mortgage Refinance Company, PLC. The General Officer commanding 3 Armored Division of the Nigerian Army and Commander Operation Safe Haven, Major General Abdul Salam Abubakar, has reassured of renewed vigor in the military in combating security challenges in Nigeria's beleaguered Plateau State. Major General Abdul Salam Abubakar was speaking during the 2023 West African Social Activities of the Nigerian Army at the Rhino Sports Pavilion at Rukuba Barracks. Here's Chib Sizoba Aniowe, who was there and now reports for News Central.
That's how the event commenced at the 3 Division Maxwell Kobe Cantonment to welcome the GOC and Commander Operation Safe Haven to the event, which is his first since assuming command at the division. Wasa, as commonly called, is an annual event of the Nigerian military, which dates back to the pre-independence era to honor cultural heritage and create a more cordial relationship among personnel, family and friends for improved productivity.
This is aimed at promoting comradeship to deepen esprit de corps, strengthen unity amongst personnel, as well as promote civil-military relations and showcase the beautiful cultural heritage of the barracks community.
It wasn't just about the cultural heritage diversity that defines the people. It was also a time for stock-taking through the activities of the previous year and how best to manage security in the new year, which WASA heralds.
Monitor and report any strange occurrences and unusual activities to the appropriate authority and remain poised to be firm, just, and fair as we confront the myriads of security challenges on the plateau for the year 2024.
While commending the GOC for his unwavering effort in enthroning peace in the state, Governor Caleb Mutfwang restated his administration's continuous support to the military for a crime-free state.
The peace and security that is being enjoyed is as a result of the concerted efforts of the military and other security agencies in support of the government of Plateau State in its determination to restore the state to its glory of being the land of beauty and tourism. I want to assure everyone here that as a government, we will continue to support the military and all security agencies in the state in order to sustain the peace we are enjoying today.
Display of cultural dances, wide array of dishes and drinks, tug of war, and performances from children painted a colorful picture of the event. Awards were also presented to personnel for distinguishing themselves in works of excellence. Lighting of the bonfire and the lowering of the Nigerian flag marked the end of the 2023 Wasa in 3 division.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
In Rukuba for News Central, I am Chizoba Anyowe.
Still talking security, the Archbishop, Metropolitan and Primate of all Nigeria of the Anglican Communion, the Most Reverend Henry Ndukuba, has urged Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu to quickly respond to security issues as the ongoing constant attacks in Plateau State and other parts of the country. The Primate made the call at the opening of the Standing Committee meeting of the Church of Nigeria in Delta State, South Nigeria. Our correspondent, Austin Azu, now reports.
Archbishops, bishops, delegates, and other invited guests converged at the Cathedral Church of the Ascension, Boji Owa, Eka Northeast local government area of Delta State, for the 4th session of the Standing Committee meeting of the Church of Nigeria, Anglican Communion. The state governor, Sheriff Oborewori, and his predecessor, Ifeanyi Okowa, traditional rulers, among others, are in attendance. The leader of the Church of Nigeria said issues of economy, security, fighting endemic corruption, and addressing infrastructural deficits remain major concerns hindering developments in the country.
The judiciary needs to do more to redeem its battered image and fight corruption so that justice in our courts will not be for the highest bidder. Recent judgments delivered by the Supreme Court on the state governorship elections have gone a long way to reassure us as a nation that justice and second can be obtained in our judicial system.
It is on record that over 50% of the crude oil and the gas Nigeria state depends on is gotten from this region.
In his remarks, Governor Oborewori admonished church leaders and preachers against indulging in false teachings and prophecies. He said the Anglican Communion has been very active in advocating for good governance and commended the church for its prayers for the nation and for its support to the poor and less privileged in the nation.
Thank God for the commitment and patriotism of our church leaders who have continued to stand in the gap for the nation. I want to seek the prayer of our fathers. They should not stop to pray for this nation. There are challenges. It is only with prayers we in government can succeed.
The Standing Committee meeting is an arm of the General Synod of the Church of Nigeria, which is the highest decision-making body of the Church. The Synod holds once every 3 years. The Standing Committee meeting holds twice per annum to take decisions on critical issues that require attention before the General Synod. In Asaba for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
A 404th-year student of the Kwara State University, Malete, in Moro local government area of the state, identified as Rashidat Shitu, has reportedly committed suicide over her academic performance. According to her colleagues, the deceased committed suicide ahead of her upcoming exams by ingesting insecticide. Rashidat's colleagues said she was having issues with her academic status in the school and later informed her colleagues when she started feeling the pain after she had ingested insecticide. Shitu was said to have been pronounced dead on arrival at the University of Ilorin Teaching Hospital, where she was rushed to for treatment. It was reliably gathered that she was first taken to the school clinic before she was referred to the teaching hospital in order to save her life. Welcome back. You're still watching News Central now on News Central TV. My name is Kofi Bartels. We have more stories. Nigeria's commission saddled with developing the nation's Niger Delta region says it has commenced a new initiative known as the Project Hope, expected to empower youth in the region, making them globally competitive in the tech and ICT sector in a bid to reduce unemployment in the region. Now, this is during a board and management retreat holding in Ikot-Ekpene, Akwa Ibom State, with the theme Renewed Hope, a New Era of Vitality, Peace and Development. The retreat also aims at developing a blueprint to achieve the key deliverables mandated by Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu's Renewed Hope agenda. The Central correspondent Amadine Uyi has more.
The Renewed Hope retreat for members of the board, management, and senior officials of the Niger Delta Development Commission. In attendance were past board members, past chairpersons of the commission, the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, lawmakers from Nigeria's Senate and House of Representatives, development partners, and experts.
The objective of this retreat, which you will agree is very timely, is to further align the board and management of the Commission with Mr. President's Renewed Hope agenda. The objective is replicated in the theme of the retreat, Renewed Hope, an era of vitality, peace, and sustainable development.
For all of us here present, it is a veritable opportunity to examine some of the factors that have militated against the collective and efficient operations of the Commission in the last few years.
While the Commission highlighted several successes achieved since its establishment via an Act of Parliament, several key partners, however, say much can still be achieved through planning and a new way of doing things.
In the past 24 years, NDDC have completed about 7,483 projects. Out of these completed projects, 3,357 are roads and bridges, while 611 are renewable energy projects. 3,427 projects are still ongoing.
If we continue the way we are, business as usual, without proper planning, without consideration of the future, there is bound to be what? Collapse.
At the end of this retreat, we should become aware that the main parameter for assessment as board members and management staff will largely be dependent on the way we discharge our fiduciary duties and the legacies we leave behind in terms of developing and improving of the region.
The NDDC announced one of its key programs, which it called the Project Hope, targeted at youth from the sub-region and aimed at making them globally competitive in the tech and IT sectors. The Minister of the Niger Delta Development also called on the management and board to ensure that a new era of transparency and accountability aimed at meeting key deliverables set by President Bola Tinubu is achieved.
The Project Hope means holistic opportunity for programs and engagement. Now, trying to bring up programs and engagement under one platform. We are looking at ways of
engaging our youth. So first thing first, Project Hope is registering youths in the Niger Delta online for us to have a database of the youths in the Niger Delta. Because without data, you cannot plan.
I urge the new board and the management of NDDC to cautiously strive to enthrone a regime of strengthened institution through a transparent and realistic adherence to extant financial regulations, public procurement acts, public service rules, and compliance.
The NDDC was also tasked to embark on internal reforms, develop new approaches to contract awards, and ensure that reports of abandoned projects facilitated by the non-payment of contractors becomes a thing of the past. In Akwa Ibom State for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
Nigeria's Minister of Transportation has tasked senior officials in the transportation sector to ensure that they meet with the key expectations as required from the government. And this was as the minister signed a performance bond with senior government officials in the transport sector. During a two-day ministerial retreat, they deliberated on strategies aimed at meeting key deliverables required via a performance bond signed earlier by the minister himself with Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu. Our correspondent Edong Joseph reports.
A two-day ministerial retreat by the Minister of Transportation with senior officials from the Transportation Ministry and its agencies. The performance bond, which is an annual appraisal system introduced by President Bola Tinubu, covers a period from 2023 to 2027 and requires extensive commitment towards the development of the transportation sector.
So the bond have to go through the ladder. We have just finished the retreat with the directors and we'll go back to the ministry. They will go with the cascading up to unit, up to the lowest level in the ministry, so that to ensure we uphold the bond we have signed with Mr. President.
The minister reiterated his commitment to deliver on the ministerial mandate as captured in the bond signed with the president and urged other officials to do the same. Also, the managing director of Nigeria's Railway Corporation pledged to improve train services to citizens.
You have to be accountable for your actions and inactions. Leadership start from the top to bottom. Yesterday, Hakim Baba Ahmed was here. I'm sure most of you were there. In his contribution, he makes a lot of recommendations that it's not just about the ministry and the permanent secretary, it's about everybody in the ministry. We have to work as a family to ensure that it is a team, because it's just like a roof. One person cannot put on the roof. So all of us will be there to ensure that we have achieved the deliverables of Mr. President.
What we do is to continue to ensure that what we are providing now, we provide it better and increase the number of trains we are going to run, and also extend it to where we stopped before. We are hoping within this quarter, Lagos to Kano narrow gauge will commence operation mostly on freight, and governmentally Port Harcourt to Aba will also commence.
The signed bond aims at ensuring effective performance in the transportation sector. Nigerians will be hoping that this will translate into effective and efficient service delivery to citizens in the transportation sector. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
A total of 24 suspected drug traffickers and dealers have been arrested in major operations by operatives of Nigeria's National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the NDLEA, leading to the seizure of over 7,609 kilograms of assorted illicit drugs in 8 states of the country. Those arrested include a 42-year-old man taking thousands of concealed opioid pills to insurgents in an enclave in the Banki area of Borno State, a 6-month pregnant lady, mother of 3, and 3 other women. The bulk of the seizures most of the seizures were made in Nasarawa State, where the NDLEA, acting on credible intelligence reports, intercepted a truck said to be conveying 367 bags of cannabis sativa, weighing 4,037 kilograms from Akure in Ondo State, Nigeria, to be delivered to Shabo area of Lafia, the state capital. The three suspects, Shoaibu Yahya Liman, Monday Audu, and Linus Samuel, have been arrested in connection with the seizure. The Executive Secretary of the Distillers and Blenders Association of Nigeria, John Ichwe, has urged the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control to reverse the ban placed on the production of alcohol in sachets and PET bottles below 200 millimeters. Ichwe stated that the ban has greatly affected the industry and led to massive loss on the part of stakeholders. Recall that on February 1, NAFDAC commenced the enforcement of the ban on alcoholic beverages in sachets and PET, as well as glass bottles of 200 milliliters and below. The Director General of the agency, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, during a press briefing, noted that as of January 31, no such beverages were registered with the agency. Welcome back. You're still watching News Central now. We continue in West Africa, where a 19-year-old man has died after clashes in Ziguinchor, the third fatality in the unrest after Senegal's President Macky Sall postponed an election due to hold this month. A hospital source and a local politician disclosed this on Sunday. The source in the southern city said the teenager took a projectile to the head and died of his injuries in intensive care on Saturday evening. Coordinator of the opposition party, PASTEF, in Ziguinchor, Abdul Sani, said he was hit in the head by a bullet. Thousands of supporters of the Economic Freedom Fighters, South Africa's opposition party, attended the party's manifesto launch ahead of the upcoming 2024 general elections. The party's leader and commander-in-chief, Julius Malema, lashed at President Cyril Ramaphosa, leader of the ruling African National Congress, saying that he was standing in the way of the country's transformation and hindering its progress. He went on to further say that South Africans must continue to seek peace for the people of Palestine. Some 27.5 million registered South Africans will vote for a new parliament, who will then vote in a new president. The elections to be held, or are to be held, on a date between May and August this year.
And the only organization in South Africa that is 100% black and African owned, and no white man can claim this organization except black. We are fighting black people who are standing on our way, being black outside and white inside. Those are sellouts. Like Ramaphosa, when we fight him, we make no apology. We know that we are fighting an evil spirit of a white settler inside Ramaphosa. The people of Palestine are not against the Jewish nation. The people of Palestine do not want to kill Jewish women and children. The people of Palestine want their self-determination. If there is anyone who's killing innocent people, that's Netanyahu. He's a warlord, an international criminal, and he must be charged.
Al-Qaeda-linked armed group Al-Shabaab has claimed responsibility for the attack on a training mission at a military base in the Somali capital, Mogadishu. At least 5 people, including Somali military officials and a United Arab Emirates soldier, were killed in the attack on Saturday after a soldier opened fire at a military base in Mogadishu. The UAE's defense ministry, however, says 3 members of its armed forces and 1 Bahraini officer were killed in a terrorist act in Somalia while they were training Somali armed forces. The ministry adds that 2 more people were injured. Let's go to North Africa. In Morocco, the country has seen only about half the rainfall it did during the same period last year. This was revealed by Morocco's water minister, Nazir Barka, This has occurred in parallel with temperatures in the country increasing by an average of 1.8 degrees Celsius compared to the period between 1981 and 2010. In recent weeks, Moroccan authorities have restricted the opening of hammams and car wash stations in several cities and prohibited the watering of golf courses or gardens with drinking water, as the country's dams are only at 23% capacity compared to around 32% last year. Moroccan wheat farmer Abdulrahim Hafid says around this time every year he is usually preparing for his spring harvest, but this year his fields lay unusually bare.
هاد البسان كنجمعوا فيه الماء، داك شويه ديال الماء اللي كاين عندنا الماء مالح، داك شويه كنحاولوا نجمعوه باش نسقيو به الشجرات، نديروا به شي خدمه بحال هذا الشيء اللي كاين. كان بكري كنا كنسقيو به، كنديروا النعناع كنديروا، دابا ما بقاش. الملوحه ولات كثيره فيه بزاف ولات كتقتل لينا الشجار، كنحاولوا
Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization, Arsenio Dominguez, has stressed the need for dialogue between all parties to de-escalate the situation in the Red Sea. Since mid-November 2023, Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels have launched dozens of attacks on cargo ships in the Red Sea in solidarity with Palestinians in the Israeli-Hamas war. Despite retaliatory strikes by the UK and US, the rebels launched attacks firing the US ship Star Nazier and the UK vessel Morning Tide on Tuesday.
Así es que nuestra labor, y para mí, es seguir conversando con todas las partes, apoyando los procesos, los operativos dentro de la organización para los buques y los ya de alto nivel, cualquier contribución que podamos dar a las Naciones Unidas. Y buscar de alguna forma que las partes sigan intercambiando ideas, opiniones y conversando para que no escale la situación más de lo que ya ha sucedido y que regresemos.
Pope Francis and Argentina's President Javier Milei met for the first time at the Vatican. The ultra-liberal Milei met the Holy Father, his compatriot, before attending the canonization Mass of Blessed Maria Antonia de Paz Figueroa. Following the Mass, Francis, in a wheelchair, stopped briefly to shake hands and share a few words with Milei amid the congregation who hugged the pontiff. An official audience will come on Monday when Milei also plans to meet with Italian President Sergio Mattarella and Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. And of course, that's all at this hour. Before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories tonight. We brought you news that Nigeria's government is blaming the country's food crisis on the devaluation of the naira and the removal of the subsidy on petrol. A third death has been recorded after violent protests following the election delay in Senegal. We also told you that South Africa's EFF has launched its manifesto ahead of the country's 2024 general election. Please send us your eyewitness reports. You can safely do that by using the WhatsApp number or email address on your screen. Also follow us on social media at News Central TV on the major platforms. And of course, you can watch News Central TV live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Evo TV, YouTube, Limex, and of course on Open Heavens Prime. I'm Kofi Bartels. We're back later on with more news. Good afternoon.